there's something that happened, Amy, and I want to just transition to this because we've been talking about this sort of unilateral decision making, is what happened to a couple of friends of mine yesterday and people that you know, and Chris Krebs and Miles Taylor, right? And I'd love to get your take on this. I fortunately I have a preemptive pardon based on January 6th. Now he wants to nullify that pardon, and my wife's like, honey, do you need a go bag? That's sort of joking. But the thing is that I know Miles and Chris, and I think an executive order asking for an investigation because they came out against this stolen election buffoonery and QAnon conspiratorial thinking is we got a nutbag demanding the FBI investigate two people because he's mad that his fantasy was busted, and it looks like some retaliatory measure on how he thought he was treated. I think we got to look at this. I don't have the words, Amy. I don't know if you have the words to encapsulate what happened yesterday, but I'd love to get your take on that.
Yeah, so I'd like to just sort of take everybody back because you mentioned this is personal to you, and it is to me as well. I know Miles Taylor, and I think he is an amazing patriot, an amazing American, and I'm sure Chris Krebs is as well. But what these two individuals worked in the Trump administration. They were Trump appointees. Miles Taylor was the chief of staff to the Secretary of Homeland Security. Chris Krebs was the leader of CISA. Now, that's the Cybersecurity Information Security Agency. I know it's a long acronym, but what they do is they protect our elections from foreign interference. It's a very important agency, by the way, one that Trump is gutting right now. But what happened to Chris was that after the 2020 election, he was in charge of that agency, and he basically came out and said there's no evidence of any kind of fraud in this election. And of course, Trump fired him. And now he's trying to wreak retribution on him by basically opening and having the FBI open an investigation on him. And it's not only affecting Chris Krebs and Miles Taylor. The president, in his executive order, basically said that I'm revoking the security clearances for everyone, for the entire company of Sentinel-1, which is a cybersecurity company that Chris Krebs now works for, and for everyone that works with him in that company. Like, how bad is that? That is like mob boss authoritarian stuff. You're not only going after the two individuals who you don't like because they told the truth about you, by the way, you're going after their companies that they work for, and then everybody that works with them in those companies. I just think that is something we have never seen before in this country. And that is why it is so important that people understand the overreach of Donald Trump right now.
Yeah, it should be one of the most chilling things that has happened since this all began, since he was, actually sworn in. So let's talk why he's really mad at Chris Krebs. So in the cybersecurity infrastructure, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, in CISA, Chris Krebs set up an area or a way to debunk conspiracy theories that were coming out about the stolen election, right? So when you're debunking that, who are you debunking? Well, you're debunking Rudy Giuliani. You're debunking Peter Navarro. It's always the same names, isn't it, Amy?
Yeah.
Right? You're debunking some of the people that people don't know about, like Colonel Phil Waldron, who's the one who sent the briefings to Giuliani and Trump about the stolen election in the swing states, or Seth Ketchel, or the cyber ninjas, right? Or Andy Biggs, all the congressional representatives from Arizona, Ginny Thomas, Clarence Thomas, Rick Perry, and everyone around Trump, right? But there are no sane people around Trump anymore. That now you have just a bunch of crazy, but back then you had a few sane people that were pushing back, like Chris Krebs, but he also is a data expert. And when you look at Miles Taylor wrote the anonymous letter in the book, right? So about what was happening inside the agency and with the insanity of the Trump presidency. So this is literally just a retaliatory autocratic measure to go after people that did their job and are truth tellers. And I think when we have a madman in charge, It's almost like Amy, like Joffrey from Game of Thrones is the president now. That's really what it's like, right? That's where we're at.
He's going after people who were honest, who had integrity, when so many others either were not honest or did not have the courage to come forward. These two individuals had the courage to come forward because they love their country, and Donald Trump is going after them. And he is using, it's not just him, Donald Trump going after him, folks. He is using the power of the federal government. Think about that. The power of the federal government he is using against his enemies, his personal and political enemies, and companies. That's why this is such a big deal, because he's now expanding into the companies that they work for. And that's just, it's just wrong. And we need to all be outraged.
Wrong and outraged is the way to put it. But at what point, what is the bow up point? And that's what frightens me about other folks, not me and you here, but there is going to be a bow up point where people like the government's coming after us for real, right? The very conspiracy theories that the GOP has pushed in MAGA, that there's a deep state globalist weaponization of the federal government, is exactly what they're doing. It's a Goebbels rift. It is, they accuse people of exactly what they're going to do. And the accusations are so wild and so insane, but they're doing exactly what's so wild and so insane about their accusations. And that's the incredible thing about information warfare and information operations, is that you have these individuals affecting this by accusing other people of that which they're doing in real time.
Right.
And I think that's what's frightening. There's people like me and you that are sane. And by the way, I want to say, I don't think this is a freaking war between the left and the right anymore. I think the right is in a hold my beer moment. We can't hardly identify it. The left, there's some crazy people on the left, as we both know. However, it seems like most of the left is like, maybe there should be a rule of law, right? That would be cool.
We're not willing to throw that away yet.
Right. Right. That'd be cool. But there's a sane against insane on this.
Yeah.
It's insane what Trump did. Everybody in the GOP, every human being should say that's nuts. He should be impeached. Or the 25th Amendment should be invoked because he's sniffing glue or he's non-compos mentis. Something's happening, right? And it's so insane. It's so nuts. It's hard for me and you to have the language to encapsulate, right, the mental batshittery that this guy is going through to go after Chris and Miles. But that's that autocratic decision making on tariffs. It's all the EOs. It's going after the law firms. Who's going to actually defend these guys? Who's going to be brave enough to do this, Amy?
Because a lot of the law firms are caving.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
The law firms bent over, right? They're Lima Deltas out there, right? They don't know what's going on. And, they just want, just protect us, you frickin' cowards. You pieces of shit. And that's where we're at right now. And that's how I'm feeling, is that I want to go in and start a bar fight, right? Yeah. I'm ready, right? I know there's 7 of them and 1 of me, but maybe I'll get one in, right? Maybe I'll get, but that's where I'm at, because this is insane.
All right. Well, I just want to take a moment here because Chris Krebs and Miles Taylor, they are patriotic Americans with courage, when so many Americans that were in the Trump administration the first time did not have courage. And I just want to take a drink for them and tell them we are behind you. You are amazing Americans. Thank you for what you've done.
Cheers. You know what? You're so right. Here's to everything. Here's to good people. There's to, people who are patriots, people who are willing to stand up against tyranny. Right. And This is like, it's like we're having our own whiskey rebellion here, Amy.
It's true. And I even brought Miles Taylor's book. I don't know if Chris Krebs has written it, but he wrote a book, Miles Taylor, called Blowback. It's amazing. Really gives you insight into the Trump administration, the first one, and then what he dealt with coming forward. These guys have courage, and we need to be behind them right now.